Welcome to the Salt Strong Fishing Podcast. Salt Strong has been helping saltwater anglers catch more fish in less time for 10 years and is now the largest and most trusted saltwater fishing community in America. If you want to catch more saltwater fish, then keep listening. If you want to speed up your fish catching results even faster, then join the private insider community at saltstrong.com. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Killer dogs on the loose. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, back again. Salt Strong Unchurched, the first episode here of 2025. Wow. I took last week off, as some of you know, really just to kind of get away, spend some time with the family. I've done an episode now, I don't know, I guess 3 years, every single Sunday. And, this was kind of a weird one in terms of when Christmas and New Year's landed, like right in the middle of the week. And so we took some time off. My wife took a week off, which is rare for her. It was good. Went up to the farmhouse, spent some time with her family, and spent some time with my family here in Winter Haven on Christmas Day, and really just had a great time. Which brings me to the story today, and a really big lesson here for not just 2025, but for any time and anything we're trying to pursue, and really just as we look for truth in the way and in our lives through God and through Jesus. So we're at the farmhouse, and this is my wife's family's farm. They've had it since 1860, and I'm not being sarcastic, 'cause it might have been before that, but that was kind of the first documented time when they have pictures of the old farmhouse there. So this is very old, and it's been burnt out a couple times and rebuilt, and parts have been rebuilt. It's but really just something unique, something you couldn't find anywhere else. There's no internet, no TV. You just go there, play board games, like big fires, and a lot of cooking and just hanging out and puzzling, and a lot of hiking. They do have a little tennis court there, plays tennis and pickleball, and then of course fishing. They've got a couple private ponds that are they're not stocked per se, but there are a lot of bass in there, and they don't get any pressure because it's a private, and no one's really fishing them. So when I go fishing there, they hit like anything. So as long as you can find them, you just got to do some walking to find where the bass are hiding that day. And once you find them, you normally catch about 20 or so in a short amount of time, which is really, really fun. So anyhow, I share all that to tell you the farmhouse is pretty cool. We love going there, and we get there and we heard some bad news, or some really sad news. So the guy down the street who does live there full time, because no one lives in this farmhouse, at least in not on a steady basis. Lauren's parents are quite a bit, but no, they don't actually live there. But the guy down the street and his family do live there, and he's not necessarily a caretaker of the property, but he watches over it, and he's there every day. He has to pass by it on his way to work every day, and he and his family, they get a lot of perks for kind of helping out my father-in-law with this farmhouse. And one of the perks was that this guy Doyle had a bunch of goats that he had acquired, and didn't really have a good place to put them. And my father-in-law will say, hey, because of all the nice work you've done for me, you can put your goats, there's around 7 or 8 of them, on my property. I already have a fenced-in area. It'll be perfect for them, and they can just eat the grass. It'll save me some money on mowing that area, and everyone wins. And so that was the setup for the last few years. And so we've had goats that technically not ours, but kind of ours. The kids loved them. They named them all, and it was always fun seeing the goats. They're actually pretty playful, and they were nice goats. They weren't really scared of humans, and you had to walk right by them. They're kind of their pen, if you will. And it's a big fenced-in pen, like a few acres big. And you had to kind of walk past these few acres to get down to the pond. So the pond's like on the whole other side of the property. And the property is like 600 acres, like 570 or something like that. So it's a big property. So you have to walk through this one path. There's only one path to get to the pond. And on the right-hand side are the goats. It's this pen, which is open. You can see everything. On the left-hand side are all these pine trees. So they also grow some pine trees on that to help pay for the property. And the pine trees are thick. There's brush all over. It hasn't been cleaned in quite some time. They usually don't do that until they start raking up the pine needles and all that. So imagine walking down this path, and on the right-hand side, wide open, clear as day. You can see everything. Nothing can really distract you. But the left-hand side, it looks like a dark, dark forest. It's almost kind of like spooky a little bit. So I kind of tell you that to set the stage of where all this is going. So we get there to the farmhouse, all excited to go down to the pond and see the goats on the way down to the pond. And we hear the news that all of the goats had been killed. And we're like, oh my gosh, what happened? And apparently there was this wild pack of dogs, like Rottweilers and pit bulls, 5 or 6 of them that had been coming through a lot of these little areas. No one owns them. They're just kind of some wild pit bulls and Rottweilers, like the kind of dogs that are killers. And the dogs came in on a couple different evenings, apparently, and came through the forest there, the pine forest, and just, because it's so dark, and just came in and sabotaged these goats and killed every one of them, and only ate one. So just outright like killer dogs. I mean, literally killed every single goats, including 2 pregnant ones that had babies. So just a hot mess, very, very sad. And so we were kind of bummed to hear that, and bummed because of the goats, obviously. But number 2, now we're on like super high alert. And we're like, well, oh my gosh, these dogs are out there. Like, what if they come get us? And so like all the parents are reacting and maybe even overreacting. And so now, like, to go down to the pond, which used to be a joyous, easy to do, I would let our kids do it. It was, very, very safe. It's like not much is going to happen. It's not a really deep pond either. It's like even if they fell in, they just walk back out. It doesn't like drop down to 10 feet or anything. It's a gradual slope down, and so there's very little risk of going to the pond. And yet now, because of one thing that we learned about these wild killer dogs, everything changed. So now we couldn't go down there without multiple adults, and the adults had to have sticks, or a fishing rod, but something to defend ourselves. And literally the whole time we're walking down. So imagine we got a path that's open. Right-hand side's open. That's the pen, like, meaning you can see everything. There's nothing's going to come out and surprise you. But the left, it's a thick forest. And so we're all staying as far away from this little forest as we walk down the path as possible. And that path is the only way to get down to the pond. And we got to go to the pond. That's where all the fun is, all the fishing. And you see deer down there. It's pretty cool. But we have this, it's about 0.3 miles you have to walk through this pine forest on the left where you don't know what's there. And we're hearing things, and every time we heard something, we're all like, our heart's beating, and we're kind of freaking out. And throughout the next couple of days while we're there, we're all on just super high alert. Kids can't go out and have fun like they normally could. No one could go by themselves. And every time we heard a dog barking, and we heard a couple dogs like kind of howling, I'm talking like people running inside, freaked out, right? I mean, just like you probably would be if you knew that, man, there's these killer dogs out there. Oh my gosh, like they could come get us. I mean, who wants to get in a fight with not one Rottweiler or pit bull, but 5 or 6 of them? And it's like we're all thinking the absolute worst. And we heard the story about the goats all dying. And obviously we've seen that there weren't any goats there. And then so this went on for the first handful of days that we're down there. And once again, we're all making crazy decisions based on what I'm about to tell you here. None of us are having any fun. Like, we're all scared to go down there and all just cautious. I used to go, even me, like I used to do my early morning walk, like super early. And I was like, wait a little bit longer till the sun comes up so I can see. Cause I was even like, a little bit just, man, what if I go down there by myself and do my walk and meditation, and it's foggy out. I was like, I don't really want to go out there right now. What if these dogs come attack me? I wouldn't fear one. If I had a stick, I'd be fine one, but 5 or 6 of them, my goodness, no, thank you. So our friend Doyle finally shows up. I guess he was off somewhere for those few days, and he shows up, and I guess he's got some cows now he's going to bring in that pen. So he came in to get the cows and feed the cows. And we find out through Doyle, who once again lives there, that the story is 100% true. But there was one minor detail that we didn't know about. So Doyle and his son, obviously they owned these goats. So they were pretty ticked off. They found out what happened. I guess they saw one of them. And so they sat there with 22s, and they plucked off and killed every single one of those wild dogs. And we didn't know that, but they literally killed off and they stayed. I mean, it said it took them a week. And these dogs were going around, I guess, from a little farm to farm, and they literally just followed around and killed every last one of them. So all these wild dogs, the whole pack is done, dead. They buried them 100% dead. And now we had this new information. And as soon as we got that, it changed everything. We went back to normal, like nothing happened. And I sat there thinking about that because the last couple of days we were able to go do that. I let Shauna go down there by herself. And I was like, wow, we're so predictable as humans, right? And I started thinking, like, how many times have we done this to ourselves? How many times have we sabotaged our own fun, or maybe just our plan that we want to do, or maybe God's plan for us because of some little fear that we heard something, right? Or we thought something and didn't really have the full story, and let this fear of the worst thing happening, right? Of these, in our case, these dogs are going to show up again. And the dogs didn't even exist. They were dead. They were buried in the ground, every one of them. There were no dogs. The dogs that we were hearing were just other people's pets, right? Everything became now really, really loud and scary just because we had heard this one story. I mean, think about if we had not even heard the story about the goats. We would have been like, oh, I guess maybe Doyle took the goats away, but we had heard that part of the story through the rumor mill of the town, but we hadn't heard part two straight from the horse's mouth, if you will. Pardon the farm pun there, but we heard it from Doyle's mouth that, hey, me and my son literally shot every one of these, and we don't even know if that's true, right? Like we weren't there to see any of this stuff happen, but as soon as we heard that, it was like, oh, cool, yeah, back to normal. Let's throw these sticks away, and the kids can go out and go down the pond all they want. No, it was wild. It just in literally in one sentence, all of that stuff just went away. And so I started thinking, well, gosh, like how many times have I sabotaged myself, and what am I doing right now sabotaging myself? Maybe not pursuing something because of a fear that maybe I thought, well, hey, someone had said this, and maybe this could happen. We've done that multiple times, even in Salt Strong in business. Well, yeah, we don't want to do our own fulfillment because this can happen and this can happen, meaning fulfilling lures and stuff, which is now a really big part of our business. We were not going to get in the tackle industry because of all these things that we had heard, right? Oh, well, man, then you have to start paying the excise tax, which is, they're all true, but they're not really that scary when you find out the real details and confront them. And so my challenge to you would be like, what are some things that maybe you should be doing that you're not doing because of some fear, maybe something that you heard? I could think of a few different things for a lot of people that I've met where afterwards I shake my head. I was like, man, I can't believe they're not doing it just because of that. Like, not that big of a deal, or that's just like a crazy fear. I mean, heck, my whole anxiety was based on that, right? The fear of something might happen, even though it probably wouldn't happen. Just like, even if these dogs had been alive, the chance of them coming after adults, which had never been documented, they were coming after small game like goats, but even that is pretty rare. And for us to have all that fear and to completely change and alter our plans and completely change our plans of having fun and enjoying the farmhouse, all because of the potential that these dogs are going to come back and try to attack that group of humans. Looking back, it is kind of silly. And so that's going to be one of the things I'm going to be focused on this year, is being bold and two, listening to God, looking for the truth, right? I mean, there is kind of a little bit of irony in this situation there. We have this path, right? So let's call that the path that we need to be on, the God's plan for us. And on the right, we have all this clarity. It was a clear pasture I could see for a long ways. And on the left, there is all of this scariness, right? This forest, it's dense. You can't see anything, right? And I feel like that's life a lot of times, where the easy path is, yeah, let's just stick to the right and go that way where we can see everything. There won't be anything scary, anything that confront us. And many times we're going to have to kind of toe that line and sometimes even get in the forest if a tree's down or whatever, and do some tough parts. I mean, all of my biggest growth have been times that seem scary, times that there was a lot of unknowns, right? Think about yourself. Think about the biggest growth opportunities and experiences in your life. So many times there was uncertainty. You might think, oh man, I'm not built for this. I'm not going to make it through this. This is the scariest thing. I don't know what's on the other side. But usually on that other side, not usually, always on the other side, is an absolute growth opportunity, lessons learned, life lessons learned. You sometimes completely go to a whole new level of growth. And so that's what I'm looking for this year. It was just such a good reminder to one, not be fearful, right? Because we were fearful about something that hadn't even happened yet. It maybe wasn't even likely to happen. But two, to also go out and seek the truth, right? Because as soon as Doyle gave us the truth, everything went away. It was like we just wasted 3 days of our lives in fear and and running from barking dogs from the neighborhood, all because we had heard that there was some wild killer dogs out there, right? And guess who has the truth? God does. Jesus does. So seek the truth, and that's what I should have done, right? When I was doing my little walking meditation, but I was on such high alert, right? This is kind of our problem as humans. We get on such a high alert, we forget to go ask God in the first place. I should have just sat there and prayed and like, hey God, I'm just seeking truth and peace for you on this, and instead I'm sitting there on high alert with I got a stick in one hand and my fish out of the other hand in case these dogs come out of nowhere at me. I don't know, just so silly looking back on it. So hopefully you got a kick out of the story, and hopefully can relate to it, and maybe when the next thing comes up, because it will for you in 2025, meaning the next scary thing, whether it be a health scare or whatever, we're all going to be faced with that, whether it's us or a family member, that there's going to be a health scare. There's going to be uh, a, a scare with jobs or whatever. Man, instead of just freaking out, let's seek some truth. Let's look at it from all angles instead of just that initial gut reaction of, oh my gosh, there's wild dogs. We got to change everything. Because that's what we did, right? And we're all smart adults, and yet we acted like a bunch of scared kids because of these pack of wild Rottweilers and pit bulls, right? So when that thing does happen, and this is a challenge to myself because I know it will happen, right? We got aging parents. I mean, her dad's turning 80 actually tomorrow. I mean, it's inevitable at some point there will be some health issues, and I hate to say it, but I mean, no one lives forever. Things will happen at some point that we'll be faced with, and I want to make sure that I don't just have that knee jerk reaction and act like the whole sky is falling. Yes, it doesn't mean it's going to be good, doesn't mean it's going to be enjoyable, but I think we need to be, really, really, really cognizant of seeking the truth and speaking to God. I'm going to have this be a year of prayer. I talked about it, I guess, 2 episodes ago about, setting these crazy goals, and most people don't hit their New Year's resolutions. But for me, a praying one is easy. I'm already in that routine. I want to do more. I want to do them a little bit longer, and just find that time with God, especially in the mornings. That's just one of the best ways to start the day. I think it is the best way to start the day. Once that day gets started, and regardless if you're in college or you got a job or if you're retired, that every day seems to just get away from you once it gets started. So start that day off talking with God, asking Him for guidance, asking Him for truth and the way and the light. And you will be shocked at what happens and just how much more peace and joy you have, where you're not having amazing things like this farmhouse get ruined and taken from you because of some fear of dogs showing up. So that'll never happen again, unless, of course, we hear about some other scary dogs or something. I'm just kidding. But hopefully you guys enjoyed that story. I pray that 2025 is going to be an amazing year for you and for your family. In terms of growth and health and harvesting, and I got some cool episodes coming up. I'm going to continue to tie in a lot of my real life stories. A couple reasons. One, I feel called to share them. And two, I learned something from them. Every one of these are things that I like to go back to. And at some point, I'm going to package them all together, at least the best ones. I've had a couple bad ones, but at least all the really good ones, and give them to my kids, right? To me, and this is maybe something that you want to do. It doesn't mean you have to do it in a podcast, but just getting on a tape recorder or a journal, right? It could be on a Word document, and just kind of documenting all the big lessons learned in your life, things that you can give to your kids and your grandkids. I don't think there could be a better legacy, right? Kids don't need money. They need guidance, right? Kids don't need a trust fund. We all think we want that, but no, you give a kid a trust fund and you have no guidance, and there's no parenting and no one kind of pointing them in the right direction on right and wrong. They are not going to get very far and might end up being on drugs and in jail and all kinds of crazy stuff that we've seen over the years with young kids and trust funds. So for me, my goal is to document all this stuff and give it to them so that they have a source of truth, that they have a source of guidance, whether I'm here or not. So just something to think about for all of you listeners. I appreciate you. Let's crush it here in 2025, and I will talk to you on the next episode. As always, if you have any questions, prayer requests, thoughts, funny dog stories, hit me up, joe@saltstrong.com. I love getting the emails from all the unchurched listeners. You guys are awesome. Makes my day to know that someone is listening. I know I see the stats of people listening, but I love getting the feedback. So joe@saltstrong.com. Hit me up. It's all private, and I read every one. Thank you, guys.
Want more fishing tips, shortcuts, and tools so you can catch more fish per trip? Then head over to saltstrong.com now and join the movement. Tight lines, and thanks for listening.